much.
So I think the way we should talk about it is probably start a little earlier than 2020.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before 2020, Ben and I, when we launched the Toronto Magic Company, we were putting on public shows all over the city. The biggest or the first big recognizer of it being 2020 was the moment when we had to refund like $10,000 worth of tickets over the course of 24 hours, which was when all the pandemic lockdowns and all that stuff was announced during that time. So that was like kind of the big first step of 2020. And then luckily Ben and I are stuck here together. So we
I don't know if I would say luckily, but whatever.
Well, luckily now, because we got to put a lot of work into virtual, and now we're doing quite a lot of virtual magic. So that's the abridged version of what has happened in 2020.
Yeah. So for us, it was the big transition from the company that we run does live magic shows and in-person live magic shows. That was the whole fundamental mission of our company. So in 2020, in March, when that disappeared, we didn't know what we were going to do. And then we regrouped, we changed sort of the mission statement from being to in-person magic shows to live magical experiences because we couldn't do in person. So the beginning of 2020, we sort of, like the beginning of the pandemic, we switched to, first we did like 2 weeks of nothing. We sort of like lay in bed eating chocolate bars and crying.
The good old days.
Yeah. And then we said we were like going to start doing some virtual stuff. We did lots of free things on different platforms. Jonah sort of picked and chose different platforms to try and experiment on. We did free events. We did cheap events. We did private.
What was your first free online magic show?
We put on a show. So back in the day, pre-pandemic, we had a show called The Newest Trick in the Book, which was an open mic night in Toronto where magicians would try new material. So we launched The Newest Trick in the MacBook, which was our virtual version of The Newest Trick in the Book. We did it, I think we did it every other week. And we had different magicians just trying to learn about the virtual space. So, sharing an act, sharing a trick that they're doing virtually and sharing it with the world. So we acted as the host. We did a little bit of magic ourselves and then shared some different magicians that we've known and we've encouraged to share some videos. And we had a full magic show based on people sending in their videos.
And
so you had, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's sort of one of the secret things that Jonah and I have been doing for the last like 4 or 5 years is when we experiment with programming, we bring in a few different magicians to collaborate with, partly because I like to think that if we have a lot of talented people on the lineup, if we suck, they'll pick up the slack.
And we suck.
Yeah. So, and vice versa. If someone struggles, there's enough people on the lineup doing cool, interesting stuff that the show is good. But also, because we have multiple people on the show doing different things and approaching things in different ways, we can find out really quickly like what things are working, who has good ideas, what engagement, etc. So most of the projects that we do start with some sort of collaboration.
So there were magicians that were ahead of you that were already doing these shows while you guys were sitting crying.
I don't think so. It took us about 2 weeks of being like, this is the end of the world. And then both of our full careers are magic. We did Toronto Magic Company was part of our income pre-pandemic. And also we did our own private events. So when all of everything completely disappeared, two people can only look at each other with nothing to do for so many days in a row until they try something. So that's basically the reality is I don't know how long it actually took, but it was probably about 2 weeks. And then we were like, what are we going to do? Sit here until the government announces that we should stop sitting here? So I think we got started pretty quickly.
Yeah, we were very early adopters because when we launched, we were contacted by someone who had started maybe 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks before us with one of the first virtual magic shows that was being advertised. And so I
think it probably did in May or June or something
we were really, the pandemic lockdown started like March 15th. And I think our first virtual,
it was like April and May or something like that.
Yeah,
it was pretty
very
soon. It was
early
pretty soon.
On. So we were early adapters. So when we say we reached out to other people, we sort of reached out to people within our circle and we said, hey, we're putting together a virtual magic show. You guys are magicians. Do you want to try something virtually? And for most of them, we used we started live.
No. What we did first, we didn't start live, but we did it on a private Zoom. So first we did a free event on Zoom where people had to sign up. We did it there. This was before we even knew you could upgrade Zoom. We were like 100 people. This is stupid. So then we live streamed it to Facebook and live streamed it to YouTube then afterwards. So at first it was a private show and then it was kind of like a live stream show that people could tune into.
Which was useful for us because it let us sort of control the content and how it was shared early because, you know, like most people, you don't want your early shows being sort of disseminated
Blasted
on the
out
internet
to everybody.
So once we did a few private ones that we controlled the recordings of, we could review them, we could edit. Not to say the stuff we put out publicly is any good, but like it's better than what we had done at the beginning. So yeah, and we did start, Jonah was right. Some of the earliest performers we let them pre-record segments. So we sort of circumvented some of the challenges, but yeah.
Okay. So then what sucked about those early things?
A lot of things. Like, I mean, the first
Like,
Zoom show was super cool. Nothing really sucked about that. The first Facebook live stream show was real hard because it was the first time we were doing one-way communication. So we were just talking to ourselves in a room, and that was bad. We also hadn't updated our tech. So my laptop was just basically going like, and then like we would black out and come back into screen and black out again or whatever. That was really bad. But I don't know. Nothing sucks.
The acts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. Sorry. The entertainment. I agree with you. People who had never done anything virtual, who sent in a pre-recorded video of them like talking to themselves or like whatever it is, like a stream of consciousness of magic. Like sometimes we get the material, we look at it, we're like, how can I share this for 100 viewers to keep their attention on YouTube? Like it's someone just talking into the air for like 35 minutes. Like I don't even know what to do with this clip. So.
And I like to tell people, because a lot of people who I see post online say things like, you know, I've seen some virtual shows, they're not as good as live and XYZ. And I think to myself, like, this is a new medium. It's a new venue for so many performers. I have never done, a year ago, I was not thinking about virtual shows. If someone asked me to appear on a virtual thing, I would show up, maybe I comb my hair. That's all the thought I put into it. Now I'm approaching it like it's my livelihood. It's my show. We're thinking about, you know, like we're thinking about our sets. This set we're using right now is going to be gone in a few days. We have a professional person coming in to build our new set for us. We have new lighting. We have all sorts of new stuff because not only is the show growing and developing, and not only are we learning how to engage and better use the medium and better interact with the people who don't have cameras or microphones on, or, you know, whatever the challenge is, we're learning. So I think that the challenge early on, the thing that sucked early on is all of us were brand new to this medium, you know? So it's like the guy with 20 years of experience was new to this medium. The guy with 1 year of experience was new to the medium. And so the shows felt that way, where we were like, we don't know what's happening. You know, we don't know the transitions. This isn't well shot. I think a year in, now things are getting better.
Yeah. How have you overcome those challenges? Can you tell me about a great show that you've done recently? And
yeah, I mean, this
we have great
set,
we had adequate shows, which is pretty good.
This set is from the Christmas show that we did 2 days ago or 3 days ago. It was on Sunday. It was a ticketed Christmas show. And the reason why that show was such a cool triumph, aside from the fact that we sold a bunch of tickets, people came, we got to entertain like our community and people who know us and people who don't, which was really cool. But what was a real triumph of that show is, you know, we promoted the show, we made some beautiful ads, and we made a few new tricks for the show. But over the course of the last 3-5 months, we developed and built an act. We have our act here down to the second, down to the moment, down to the instant. We have a full entire act that we do. So
I feel like a pro again, because during shows I can zone out and the show continues, you know, without missing a beat. I'm like, oh yeah, we're in the middle of something.
No, but yeah, to me, that's the real big difference now than it was then. And, you know, an example of how it's working now is if somebody woke me up in the middle of the night right now and said, hey, do your 25-minute show, we could do it. And I could still be sleeping and we could still do it. And obviously that's not a good thing for the client. I'm not recommending that, but
These guys are bragging
no.
about how
But I am saying that there's a certain amount of confidence that I now have being a part of the world of virtual, that 3 months ago or 6 months ago, rather, you know, someone would say something, I'd be like, sure, we could do it. And I hang out and I'm like, how on earth are we going to do this? I've never done this before. This is going to be horrible. This is going to be a mess. And now I have confidence going in. I know we're good. I know they're going to laugh. I know. And that's the kind of confidence that I was able to have, like in the real world, when someone would hire me for an event, I knew that it would be a good or goodish event.
And when you ask about what great shows we have, I find that it's very similar to my experiences in person at shows, which is like the shows where I walked out feeling like that was great, were the shows where I felt like the audience and I were really connecting. I was able to take risks because, you know, I knew the material. So I was able to go off script and play with them. Someone could say something and I didn't have to ignore it. I could roll with it. And some of the moments felt more spontaneous and we were able to take risks. Like, I'll give you an example. You know, Jonah and I do a trick in the show or sometimes that's interactive where one person on their side of the screen has cards that travel from, it's like a cards across, but it happens on their side of the screen, which is really cool. Cards move invisibly on their side from one pile to the other. But at one moment in the show, Jonah reaches over like he's doing now and he pretends to grab a card and move it. Well, one day we were looking at someone and they had a very unique deck of cards. Like no one in the world would have a deck of cards like that. Except for us.
We're magicians.
Of course we do. 500 or 600 different decks of cards in my room. So literally we start the show by saying, you know, at one point in the show, we say, who has decks of cards? We look for decks of cards that look extraordinarily unique. Oh, this person has an Elvis deck from Branson. Who could have a deck like that? We do. They have a deck from, you know, 1863. We have that. So we can start doing stuff where like cards from their side of the screen, which is impossible. Or we did a show where we saw someone was drinking with a water bottle that looked different. And it was my water bottle. I have the exact same
And
one.
we had a show when someone had their cat and we have the exact same looking cat.
You know, so we can do weird stuff where we like, you know, someone takes their water bottle and puts it down below screen. And then we come up with a water bottle and now they come up like they have nothing in their hands.
And yeah.
And the audience goes nuts.
As a live entertainer, the difference of looking at someone sitting in a chair with their hands in their lap like this versus looking at someone in their house with their family and their art around them and the way they live their life with them gives us so much more ammunition to have a fun show together and to be creative and to do unique things. So now it's fun. Now it's like, we love it.
Yeah, that's what I hear when you say that you can tune out during the show. I think you also have the opportunity to be a human being and to add layers onto because keeping up, well, like not only are you trying to keep up with what are you going to do next in the show, but you're also trying to keep up with the technology glitches that are inevitable and the lag and the other obstacles that people are dealing with just interfacing with you this way. So
and I could say that one big benefit that Jonah and I have is that we work together. So like we have our set list written here. We can see it. So whenever we need to, we can reference it, you know, but also he can do things like he can stamp on my foot under the table to say like, stop talking, right? Because sometimes we'll start going too long, or he can go like this and put his hand where you can't see it like mine is now. And you can't see that I'm doing this gesture, which means keep going. Or he points to a trick and goes, we're running short, do this, or this audience, you know, so we can communicate. So if there's a tech issue, he can run back and start dealing with it. And I can engage with an audience or vice versa. So, you know, it does. And when we talk about zoning out, I mean, we joke about it, but like there are useful times, like, you know, there are certain Christmas or holiday days where we were doing like a dozen shows. You're exhausted.
And yeah, and you mentioned something about the technology, and I'll just share that, like, you know, early on in the process, like I said, someone says, can you do this? And you're like, sure, I don't know. And now even on a new platform, like our first time on Microsoft Teams, for example, as comparison to Zoom, was a freaking nightmare. You know, you're talking to Susie and you've got Greg's face up on the screen and he's picking his nose. And you're like, what on earth is happening, Microsoft? What are you guys doing over there? But what ended up happening, and I'm going to give a little secret to anybody who also hates Microsoft Teams who's listening to this, what ended up happening is Ben and I developed a way to communicate with the people on Microsoft Teams. What do? We were like, okay, the camera's a crapshoot. We can't see anyone. We have no idea who you all are. We have no idea what's going on. So unmute your mic and yell this or yell that if you're with us. So now we got our show and we got people yelling back, yeehaw, woo, giddy up, cowboy, like saddle up, you know, all this ridiculous stuff. And they're having a blast doing it. And now we have learned and we have established kind of those new things by being on the platform. So I think it's about playing. I think if we think about it as the end of the world, you know, like this has to be the perfect experience. There's not 1 second of lag and 1 second of moment. Not at all. I think people are aware of what's going on. They know it's a virtual show that's happening through Zoom. They know all of that's going on, and that we should play with the experiences, because that's the only way that we come up with new bits that aren't just our in-person bits, but just done virtually.
And I think to add to that, Jonah mentioned like, you know, Microsoft Teams, a specific example, like that we tell people to unmute to respond. Well, sometimes you have a show where there's hundreds of people and you go, well, hold on. If I let them all unmute, that show is unwatchable, unlistenable, right? So then we can start doing things because technology evolves where we have the ability to mute all or not mute all. So you can give people, like, we can hit a button and say, you know, if this is working for, I want everyone to yell in your loudest voice, yeehaw, everybody unmutes. And now you get yeehaw, yeehaw, and you get stragglers. You make a joke or two about that. You mute them all again. Now the next time they're ready to go, they're primed. And I think that you can encourage them to use the chat function. You can encourage them to use audio or to hold up their thumbs on screen or to do, you know, so the more we learn and the more the tools evolve to let us spotlight people in different ways or switch back and forth. And again, the more we understand our medium and become masters of these mediums and venues, we're going to get better.
It's all going to be.
What, are you entertaining a lot of people?
Well, hold on. We're in front of a lot of people. Doing stuff. We hope.
Yeah, we had a great season, and it was a lot of fun, and we had a lot of funny moments that came from entertaining virtually to you have no idea. And I'll tell you one moment is we're in here doing a show and we get a private message in the Zoom chat from a girl, and she's like, hey, I'm your neighbor from across the street. I'm the one who calls your cat Chonky when you sit outside in the summer. And so we stopped the show to say, you know, it's so weird. We're doing a show right now for 700 people right now. You know, who knows who would be here? Our neighbor from like over there came to say hello. So it's so much fun. We're entertaining a whole lot of people. And one little aha moment that Ben and I had was, you know, if it was last year and I woke up on a day in December and the snow was falling and I had 3 in-person events, it would be the worst day of my life. Like the worst day of my life. Like, you know, I know you live in LA, you don't know from snowy day or whatever, but like, you know, me putting on boots, making sure that I don't get snow on my things, it's a nightmare. If I slip, if the car slips, I'm going to miss this $2,000 gig and I can't. It's a nightmare. This, I woke up, had my coffee. We had a lot of shows. It wasn't 3, you know, so we had a little more preparing to do, but we stood here, we did the show between them, you know, we had a nice break. So it was a fun year. It was a fun, like a Christmas time. We got to entertain a lot of people and kind of benefit from how that was different from when it was in person. And when we spent most of our entertainment time driving around the city like idiots.
I think that in-person shows for me, personally, I should say, a lot of the energy that I wish I could have put on stage goes into the 9 hours before, where I wake up with a stomach cramp because I'm nervous about my 3 big shows that day. And then I pack my bag for an hour really slowly because it feels like it's a death march. And then I have to drive through the snow for 2 hours and get a coffee that I'm trying not to spill on myself because I have to stay awake, you know, like all this stuff. And then by the time I get there, I have to smile, I set up, I have to wait 2 hours in a green room.
Basically, we love virtual.
You know,
okay?
like,
we love virtual.
Yeah,
it's really
I mean,
great.
You know, we were talking about how we did a holiday show, and that was after doing like 40 or 50 holiday shows, like, and we had so much fun. We stayed on with the kids for an hour and a half extra, answering questions, watching their tricks, hanging out. And like, not to say I don't try to spend extra time with my clients and I don't want to go above and beyond, but honestly, last December, if I had to spend so much emotional energy not putting into the show,
I don't hang out like after the show. I go sleep.
I gotta go.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of room for experimenting and doing outside of the box things.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you guys have a few more minutes?
Yeah, we can talk as long as you want. No social life.
Is there is there money in this?
None at all. We've been doing them for free, but I hope that with enough volume,
my grandmother said she's going to buy a
there.
ticket to our next show.
They say the secret is merchandising, so we have shirts.
Yeah, we bought.
And if anybody
that's
wants,
a good tip, by the way. Yeah,
free times a lot.
Yeah, retail is
if
what I've
any
heard.
of you are out there and you want to compete with us and steal our market from us, the secret is buy t-shirts.
T-shirts
for your fans.
I know it looks like that we added this for show, but really we added this to get an extra foot in our house of storage of t-shirts that we're never going to sell.
No. Is there money to be made? Of course.
Yes.
I mean, there are people I know, like I spoke to some people early on. One person told me he got $4,000 for a 20-minute pre-recorded. Another person told me that he did an hour show for like $50. It depends. Like
the best way I can put it is this. There's always money when there's problems to be solved. And right now, you know, a company, and I'm reflecting on December right now, but a company who last year they had a restaurant event, and you know they invited everybody from the company to the restaurant. Everybody ate and drank, and they went back to the company, and then they all got bottles of alcohol, and they all got gifts, and they invited Santa. That was $25,000. This year they have to do a virtual event. Okay, so they have Zoom. That's $50. And now they're like, how is it that I'm going to show Sally from accounting that I value her? Because last year was very easy for me to show that, but this year I have no way to show that. So I'm not saying they give us $25,000. Not yet so far. I'll let you know when they do. But I will say that
24,000.
Yeah, it's a little less. But
no,
but what I will say that does happen is if you can solve a $25,000 problem for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4,
or
depending on what the problem is, you are solving their problem, saving them money, and giving them the solution they need. So the answer is there is plenty of money because there's plenty of problems to be solved right now.
And I'll add to this because he's not going to do a plug. Jonah runs Upgrade Academy. That's what it's called, right? I don't know. But all I know is this. When we switched the way that sort of Toronto Magic Company worked, we changed a lot about our pricing strategy. Jonah talks about it a lot with free webinars and other stuff that he does online, like how we do the pricing. But like he said, there are these companies, they had a huge budget last year to try to serve their 5 or 6 or 1,000 members of their company. They have that exact same problem this year. And if they wanted to send out the cheapest possible gift basket to everybody in their company, $25 a gift basket, like you're not going to get much to $20.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have 500 people in your company, that's $10,000 minimum they're spending. So if you say, hey, we actually can put a great program. And by the way, you know how you were really worried about how the virtual event would run and who's going to run the tech and who's going to do all the back? We're going to do it all. How much is that worth to you? Is that worth 5,000, 10,000, 15,000? They're probably going to go like, yeah, that's worth great. So
Right.
yeah, I would say if you want to learn more about pricing structure and how you can go from like $200 a show to potentially thousands.
And
also,
also
a good show.
Scott was a part of Upgrade Academy and he crushes it and he's amazing. So he knows all about the stuff as well.
I didn't need to say anything then.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Do you think that there's I'm not talking from your own experience, but do you think that there's potential for other kinds of things besides magic to be online shows?
Of course. I think that the problem to be solved is that let's say we're talking about companies. Okay. We can talk about everything. We could talk about birthday parties. We could talk about anything. But let's talk about companies for a second. The problem to be solved is that they have all hands on deck meetings. They have team meetings. They have events, or they used to. And now they keep getting together and they keep having Greg from HR do not play harmonica, but do a quiz night. Greg from HR does a quiz night, and quiz nights are fun, but not when Greg from HR does it. Greg has never done a quiz night before. So these people are suffering because, and if you don't believe me, go ask your cousin, uncle, friend, wife, brother about the last happy hour that they did for their company. Ask them. I dare you, anybody who's listening to this, like they're going to tell you that they play bingo with the last names of their kids' birthdays. And it's a nightmare, right? And people they have a horrible time. And what happens is HR, who is struggling to get engagement from their people, to get their people to be a part of it, they do an event, they have 50 people show up. They do the next event, 20 people show up. They do the next event, 7 people show up. They're like, how do we get our people to engage online? Well, if you're an entertainer and you have the answer to that question, you better be, waving your hand a lot because there's a lot of people that need that answer.
Yeah. And I think I can't think of any performance that you couldn't do online. Not to say that it wouldn't take a great deal of work to try to translate it. Again, you're figuring out a new medium, but if you could lead massages online, no joke. There are people who lead workshops online.
Do duo classes and have people massage each other.
Yoga. There's yoga classes online. I'm thinking of
I just helped someone lead a cooking class online, or people prepare their stuff. The name of the game is engagement, right? So if you can get people to be a part of the experience, then you can do it online.
Yeah.
Cool. What? So are you guys going to go to IRL shows when? If the pandemic ended tomorrow?
Eventually, yes. I mean, we stopped doing shows for a variety of reasons. One of them being that we were worried about our health and our clients' health. So we're certainly not going to rush into anything, because the worst case scenario in my mind is we do some sort of kid's birthday party or something, and then people get sick, right? That would be terrible. So are we rushing to do it? No. Do we want to go back to doing in-person events? Yeah, of course. They're a different beast. They offer different positives and cons. Like, do I want my livelihood to be every day I have to hustle and drive around? No. I mean, like, if I could do a great show that engages with people, and again, like if you asked me to do 6 shows in a day, it's hard to do that in person, but I can do virtually. Like, there's different pros and cons. So like,
I would say that we're not right now, we are not thinking about in-person events. And I'll tell you the way that I have gone about my life so far in virtual, and maybe it's helpful to anybody listening, which is I plan 3 months ahead. Anything more than 3 months ahead is us based. You're like 3 hours. It's very
no,
interesting.
not even.
For us,
I saw proof of that today.
For us, it's basically like if you're planning more than 3 months ahead, like honestly, we have no idea. We're just making it up, right? We're just basically making it up, and we can go pretty deep in a 3-month plan. And every month, you update the next month away a 3-month plan. And for now, looking 3 months at the horizon, I don't see IRL happening anytime soon. Will it happen again for us? When IRL comes back, we will be back doing, real in-person shows in some regard. But right now our horizon is virtual.
I also think logistically, like from our experience running a successful like in-person show, we want to have about 2 months of promotion time. Right. So we need to have the time to find the venue, get the graphics made, put the shows together, and then like a 2-month lead time.
Even if somehow everyone had the vaccine by March, we wouldn't have a show by May because we want to promote it, and we would want to. So I'm not even thinking about in-person shows until in-person shows are thinking about me.
If vaccines came and people started opening up, then we could say, hey, in a few months, do we want to do a show? Because if we want to do a show in 3 months from now, we have to start planning today. So like. And we're not rushing to do that. I don't see any in-person shows happening. And again, I'm going to throw this out there. We want to go back to doing in-person shows, but we're not in a rush because virtual is awesome. We're still doing magic. We're still engaging with people. We're still blowing minds. We're still entertaining. We're still making money. We have creative freedoms to do all sorts of new stuff. Like, there's so many positives to this. It's like, if you like doing close-up magic and you like doing stage, you're not necessarily in a rush to get rid of one of them. And I think like virtual for me has been better than in many ways, better than all the other venues that I've worked for a lot of other reasons.
Cool.
But
so let's say somebody's a tap dancer and they're thinking, maybe I want to look at Zoom, doing a Zoom show, something that they can do in a day that won't be too scary for them.
Easy. Yeah. Hey, friend, you do this post on Facebook. It's very easy. Hey, friends, I assume most of you know I've been tap dancing for the last 25 years at TDA, the Tap Dance Academy. I know this sounds really, really strange, but I wanted to do an experiment. I'm going to do a free tap dancing class happening this Sunday. It's 1 hour. You don't need shoes. You don't need anything. You just need to come and wear stretchy outfits. If you're interested, comment tip tap below and I'll send you the information. Bam. Now you have your first free event where you get to try teaching tap dancing to complete strangers. They're your friends already. Just follow up with every single person, do your first event. And from one of those people is going to go, hey, I wonder if you could do that for my company. There you go.
What's the worst thing that can happen if they do that?
Nothing. It was free. So if everything goes completely wrong, you don't owe anybody anything. It was free.
Unless, look, the truthful answer is like, I suppose in theory, if you were
everyone breaks their ankles.
No, but like unconsciously bad that like, and for whatever reason, every person who came to your show is an important influencer somewhere. But like, that's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. It's just not. The people who are gonna come to your first few shows are your biggest fans and supporters. When you post online and you invite them, it's your friends, it's your mom.
Nate Kranzo said something really, really brilliant. And this was in reference to in-person shows, but it's still true. He said, no one audience will ruin your career. No one audience will ruin your career. And you're be darn sure it's not your first show. That's for darn sure, okay? The worst thing that can happen is that it's not a good show and emotionally you don't feel good enough to do it again. That's the worst thing that can happen. But other than that, even if it's a horrible, terrible, bad show, all your friends will say, thanks. Thanks for letting me be a part of it. It was
and I think if it's your first show, you sit down, you watch the footage, which is the most valuable part, especially with Zoom. What's cool is like
you can auto record.
Yeah, like one of the biggest tips that we give people is like, if you're going to start doing shows, record it. And sometimes you have to find some awkward way to set up your phone or ask your friend to do it. Zoom records it.
And
So
it records exactly what the audience is seeing.
So you can sit down and review every part of it. And the first couple shows will be rough. It sucks. But what a valuable lesson you get that you get to like sit and watch it. So like, I would say to someone like, go out, the first one, have fun, recognize that it's not going to be your best show. If you watch it and you felt like the show was great, whoa, then you're awesome. Like it's only going to go uphill from here.
You put at the bottom of that, you put a little bit of scarcity. You know, people like scarcity in their marketing. You say, P.S. if I get more than 25 people at it, I'm going to do it again, but it's going to be $25. Done. I've started your business for you in 3.5 minutes. Now go do it.
So awesome. Thank you guys so much for talking.
Dude,
this was motivational.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure chatting with you. And I just want to share, you know, there's only a few people right now who are dedicating their time towards helping entertainers kind of see the light right now. And I know you're one of them, and it makes a big difference. So thank you for the work that you're doing right now. It makes a big impact.
And I love the message, again, from both Jonah and I love the message you're trying to share, which is like, have fun out there. You know, if you wanted to build your own theater, cost you $1 million in the real world. Now we all have one. We have the opportunity.
Costed us like 150.
Yeah. You have the ability to like experiment and explore and have fun and be creative. And you get to do it from your house while your cat or dog is playing around your feet. And everybody at home who's watching is comfortable and happy and drinking their coffees or having some whiskey. Like, have fun, go out there, enjoy it. I think it's a golden era for us. Honestly, I do. I love it. I want to keep doing it and rock and rolling it.
Awesome. Thank you guys. All the love.
Good to see you, Scott.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, happy
Hanukkah.
I know.
Remember the holiday water bottle?
It's okay. Our duck is celebrates.
Our duck celebrates Christmas.
Say Merry Christmas. Oh, good.
He's in the show.
It's great.
Yeah, adults see this. The grown-ups see this.
Oh, it should be this.
It's real. That's why we told you we perform, but we don't entertain much. You know what I mean?
I just realized
it's mostly for us. You know, it's like
this is off record now. You can cut it here, but this sat in my house for like 8 years, and the only time I ever performed it for people was when my friends came over and we got drunk. And now
we do it a lot.
We do it for people.
He had a kid, so it's a big day.
And we do it while drinking anyway, so it's always good.
No, this is our side chick. It's a little different.
So stupid.
Oh, whoa.
All dumb jokes.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I was like 8 years old and I showed a magic trick to my neighbor. He said, go show it to this neighbor over here. I showed it to this guy and he was like, come with me. And then he took me into his basement and he studied at Chavez and he had all these tricks and like tons of things like that. Like so many like
Those
wooden
are the best.
card reveals.
You know,
heavy.
A lot of times when we're doing shows, we want people to have something that they can use, right?
Yeah.
So like we love those sorts of stupid things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
Props are really good for online too.
Yeah.
They're necessary.
I don't think you need any props. Like we try not to use stupid
We
props.
try to use no props because it seems to get over the top.
It's a serious
like
my fake hand fell.
No. Hey.
No. It's just me. Don't be afraid. It was me. I'm the
That looked realistic. It looked good to have your hand move out of the way.
Where's the fake hand? I can't find it.
You can't do this shit in a live show.
It's gotta be down here somewhere.
This is the bullshit.
It's gotta be down here somewhere. Oh no! Oh,
this isn't even our kids show that you're seeing. This is embarrassing.
This is for grown-ups. Oh my goodness gracious!
By the way, if you want to learn where we get all of our best virtual magic,
David Copperfield VHS tapes. You should pick them up. It's like a thick DVD.
I thought this was like cheap.
No, it's David Copperfield. That's really the VHS. Don't mess with them.
David Copperfield's logo is 3 David Copperfield.
See, we have fun. This is our life. It's so stupid. It's so much fun. People pay us for this.
I go to the dollar store and I walk through like every month or so, and I just walk through and I'm like, that looks stupid. This looks stupid.
It's all dumb. It's all just stupid nonsense. We have such a blast. It's so much fun.
You guys are the best. Thank you.
Dude, thank you.
Have a good night.
Good to see
Thank you.
Later.
Bye.